Vietnam is located in the east of the Indochina Peninsula in Southeast Asia. Its northern territory borders China's Guangxi and Yunnan provinces. Since 2023, Chinese people are surprised to find the border crossing between the two countries unusually crowded.
I've been
waiting in line for 2 hours, and I've only moved about 10 meters. Only 10 meters in 2 hours. There's so many people, it's terrible. You see, there are many people who can't stand it anymore, so they sit down over there to rest. The line isn't moving. Today is Saturday. It's the weekend. You see, more and more people are coming. The line is so long. Wow. It's up to the bridge.
A lot of Chinese people are heading to Vietnam nowadays, not only for tourism. Signs suggest they are also going for job opportunities. We have yet to have solid data to support this claim. The 2019 Vietnam census put the Chinese population at roughly 750,000, less than 1% of the total population. Some sources on the Chinese web say that the number of Chinese is around 1.1 to 1.3 million. The earliest group of Chinese to arrive in Vietnam was over 300 years ago, at the end of the Ming Dynasty in China. A group of opponents that resisted the new dynasty, the Qing dynasty, fled to Vietnam. Compared to China, Vietnam is much more behind in terms of economy and facilities. This video has been circulating online, showing how a container yard in Vietnam uses 2 forklifts to swap containers. The video was intended to entertain. It nonetheless shows a gap between Vietnam and China. However, no one can deny that Vietnam has been rising rapidly in recent years. Since 2018, it started to benefit from the trade frictions between China and the U.S. Many high-tech industries in China have been making the move to Vietnam. Especially since the outbreak of the new coronavirus in 2020, Vietnam has managed to expand its supply chain while the implementation of the COVID-0 policy depressed all industries in China over the past 3 years. More and more foreign companies now say that Vietnam has the potential to become part of the next world factory. Vietnam is strategically located. It borders China with more than 3,000 kilometers of coastline for maritime logistics. In addition, cheap labor, a young population, preferential government policies, and free trade agreements with many countries have made this country a top choice for foreign companies to diversify their risks. About 4 or 5 years ago, due to concerns about supply chain risks, manufacturers started moving out of China. Led by the electronics industry, they concentrated in northern Vietnam, with Hanoi as the center. Vietnam has a long and narrow territory. While the industrial system and chain aren't yet mature, the northern part of the country has the advantage of being close to China. Manufacturers in the electronics industry can quickly obtain parts and raw materials from the southeast coast of China. Large U.S. companies that have invested or plan to invest in Vietnam include Apple, Bank of America, Boeing, and many others. In 2022, Intel made another investment of U.S. $475 million, and Ford plans to increase production capacity in Vietnam. On December 31, 2022, the General Statistics Office in Vietnam announced that its national GDP grew by 5.92% year-on-year in the fourth quarter of 2022 and by 8.02% for the entire year. It's the highest growth rate in 10 years. The average income in Vietnam per capita was estimated to be about US $4,110 in 2022, an increase of US $393 compared to 2021. According to public data, nearly 88% of Vietnam's working population is aged 25 to 59. Its age advantage is significantly better than that of China, and its labor costs are highly competitive. The average growth rate of Vietnam's population is also steadily increasing. According to data from the Department of Population and Labor on March 12, 2023, Vietnam is expected to become the 15th country in the world and the third in Southeast Asia with a population of over 100 million by mid-April 2023. The other two are Indonesia and the Philippines. The head of the General Statistics Office said that human resources are the most important tool to improve the country's competitiveness. Vietnam is proud to welcome its milestone of reaching 100 million people. Vietnam's agriculture is no less important than its manufacturing and service industries. After the Vietnamese government decentralized the land rights to farmers, Vietnam has transformed itself from a country with a food deficit to the world's leading rice exporter in about 2 decades. It exported 7 million tons of rice in 2022, ranking second in the world. In contrast, China imported 6.19 million tons of rice in 2022. In 2011, Vietnam began to lean towards the West. The rise of Vietnam today is reminiscent of the miracle on the Han River, witnessed in South Korea after World War II, thanks to the help of the U.S. Vietnam has been open and innovative for more than 20 years and has gradually entered the deep water of reform. Observers have found reform of its political system has far surpassed that of the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP. The 6 reforms that have been gradually implemented by its government are: in 2006, Vietnam implemented differential elections. In 2010, officials are required to declare their assets. In 2016, the first national election was held, with 50 million voters electing 500 parliamentary members and more than 320,000 local council members. In 2017, the Parliament announced the abolition of the household registration system. In 2019, the lifetime status of civil servants was abolished. In 2021, the general election was introduced in accordance with the Constitution. All citizens have the right to vote and to be elected and have the right to vote to dismiss their representatives from the National Assembly and all levels of Parliament. Internationally, almost all countries in the Indo-Pacific region, including the U.S., Japan, Korea, Australia, Taiwan, India, Pakistan, and Thailand, and the Philippines, have developed friendly relations and even strategic partnerships with Vietnam. In particular, the U.S., which was a rival during the Vietnam War, has received much attention for its 2 aircraft carrier visits to Vietnam in recent years. On April 15, 2023, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with the Vietnamese Prime Minister in Hanoi. The two men said they want to deepen and enhance their bilateral relationship. Blinken said the U.S. and Vietnam will work together to address climate change, find new renewable energy sources, and build more resilient supply chains. Following his meeting with the Prime Minister, Blinken also attended a groundbreaking ceremony for the new U.S. Embassy in Hanoi.
The ties that connect our countries, Vietnam and the United States, have grown stronger and stronger. And that's happened in no small part because of our renewed diplomatic presence in Hanoi, because of our exceptional staff at the embassy, at our consulate in Ho Chi Minh City, who have worked day in, day out to forge a relationship that's robust, that's dynamic, that's consequential, and that addresses the needs of the people in both of our countries. Today, we are, as you've heard, celebrating 10 years of collaboration through our comprehensive partnership. We've joined forces on everything from improving public health to expanding inclusive economic opportunity to accelerating the clean energy transition. We're advancing together a free, open, connected, prosperous, secure, and resilient Indo-Pacific region, one that is at peace and rooted in respect for the rules-based international order.
It can be seen that the U.S. is trying to build an alliance in Southeast Asia to confront the CCP and deter possible military action by Beijing against Taiwan. Many Southeast Asian countries are reluctant to confront the CCP directly. This is because China is not only a military power but also an important trade partner and source of investment for these countries. If the U.S.-Vietnam relationship succeeds in deepening, it will have important implications for the strategy in Washington. It can be argued that Vietnam's rise is due not only to its government making choices close to public opinion in recent years, but also seizing the rare opportunity of the world decoupling from communist China. Look, here is the once largest shoe factory in China in Dongguan, Guangdong province, owned by Taiwanese businessmen. At its peak, it had more than 100,000 workers with its own school, hospital, and kindergarten. But now it has moved to Vietnam, leaving the campus empty and desolate.
Orders for factories in Vietnam are already scheduled for next year, and orders for factories in China are scheduled for tomorrow. Apple factories are already producing in Vietnam, and 1/3 of these factories in Vietnam are moved from China. We all know the current situation of the manufacturing industry. Factories recruit people with high standards, such as age, education, household registration, ethnicity, etc. These are all just superficial. The real situation is that there are no orders, and factories don't need so many people. The number of unemployed people is increasing. Companies will naturally pick people who are young and hardworking. Don't blame the factory for being ruthless. It's the reality.
The sharp decline in China's foreign trade orders can also be seen in the Canton Fair, the 133rd China Import and Export Fair. It opened on April 15th in what official media called the largest fair in its history. Chinese officials took this fair very seriously. Chinese media reported that the total exhibition area of the Canton Fair increased to 1.5 million square meters, with the number of offline exhibitors increasing from 25,000 to about 35,000, with more than 9,000 new exhibitors. Nearly 40,000 online exhibitors uploaded more than 3 million exhibits. Officials also claim that there were 370,000 visitors on the first day of the opening, including 67,000 foreigners. The official media showed the Chinese that the country's foreign trade economy is still hot.
So today is the first day. Yeah. So first day just looking around. Probably after a few days then we'll have very good visibility, and we look forward to having some good contracts and some good business. Yeah. Anything related to electronics, we're here to look for it.
We are from England, so both of us from London, England. We come today to find new technology and new products to export, import back to London.
We will launch it up till the Christmas period, so we need to get starting on making all the formal job, getting the translation done, be ready to prepare the product for the market.
However, videos and messages from inside the booths at the Canton Fair show that the situation is different from what was officially broadcasted. Many exhibitors have complained. A number of the exhibitors broke the news that all the people seen at this year's Canton Fair were Chinese. Foreigners were few. In particular, there was almost none from Europe and the U.S. Those who did come were mostly from Asia, Africa, and Latin America.
Today, the first day is over. At first glance, the traffic wasn't bad. Foreigners accounted for about 10%, but this is an estimate and may not be accurate. I got 8 business cards from foreigners today, but they were the kind of customers who come and go in a hurry, not the kind who sits down and discusses in detail. In the past, on the first day, it was usually the busiest, and I could at least get more than 50 business cards. But this time, the booth fee is so high and the input-output ratio isn't great in comparison. I'm a little disappointed. I asked my salesperson to check out the fellow exhibitors to see if it's because our booth is small and inconspicuous. She went around and made some inquiries, and the result of others were pretty mediocre as well. Look at the line outside. Look, people are getting heat stroke. But we have no one here. What's with the organizer? Come over and see. People are counting mosquitoes. Look at this hall. Finally, it's open, but all visitors are kept waiting outside. I'm now in the auto parts exhibition hall. It's basically for auto parts. There are more foreigners here this afternoon than in the morning, but still it isn't comparable to the previous years. In 2015 and 16, there were so many foreigners, and in 2017 and 18, there was still quite a lot. However, this year, very few foreigners came. I feel that compared to before, there are really very few. This year, many companies come to the exhibition. The cost is very high, not very cost effective. Even for a small booth, the cost is high. The effect of the future fair won't be good. Now, many owners who have the capabilities have chosen to attend overseas the exhibition or promote their businesses online. Quiet and empty.
Some exhibitors also revealed that exhibitors and domestic buyers accounted for the majority of the traffic. It cost a business US $23,000 for an auto parts booth, but they received only 8 business cards. Based on the number of business cards received at the Canton Fair, most foreign trade companies are losing money. The big winner of the Canton Fair turns out to be the organization that hosted the fair. It can be argued that the increased push by Western countries to decouple from China has led to the shift of China's manufacturing industry to Southeast Asian countries such as Vietnam. It has affected not only the manufacturing industries in the Pearl River Delta and Yangtze River Delta, but also hammered the industrialization of the central and western regions. It has evidently worsened the employment prospect in the manufacturing industry, but the unemployment wave has actually happened beyond the manufacturing industry. It's something that even ordinary Chinese have become well aware of. Is Foxconn moving overseas? It's moving to Vietnam. In fact, this is only a snapshot. I've seen a lot of people in the comments section, and they're all right. It is a snapshot of the next few years. Not only Foxconn, but many factories have also already moved away. You can learn more about it. Many large factories and new factories have moved to Vietnam. I won't explain the reason here. Many people in the comment section are right. It does impact us, indeed. In the next few years, many people will experience employment difficulties. This is because not only has the factory moved away, the service industry around the factory is gone as well. Take Foxconn as an example. Around the block of the factory, there are a lot of restaurants or other businesses that serve the Foxconn employees, such as the night market, clothing stores, etc. Take this one factory of Foxconn. If it all is moved, the impact on China means the employment of 10 million or 20 million people. Together with other new energy plants and semiconductor plants, it will affect the employment of hundreds of millions of people. Many middle-class people in the comment section say, I earn more than 10,000 yuan a month, about US 1,500. These have nothing to do with me. Have you considered other people? Those 18 to 22-year-olds, 30 and 40-year-olds with little education and skills, what are they going to do for a living? Can they rely on you to support them? Will you give them money? Every day in the comment section, there are people showing off. Why don't you think more about others? Last year, Vietnam approved a strategy of foreign trade import and export up to 2030. In the strategy, the average annual export growth rate is set to be 6 to 7% between 2021 and 2030. The data presented in the strategic plan is very detailed. It includes the structure for export products setting a target of 88% of the total export being manufacturing products by 2025 and 90% by 2030, among which technology products accounting 65% and 70% in 2025 and 2030 respectively. This feels like a replacement timetable for the world factory status of China. The rapid rise of Vietnam shows that the world factory position that the CCP is proud of will be replaced by several other countries one by one. If manufacturers in Vietnam seek to localize their raw materials gradually, can Vietnam rise to become the next world factory as its supply chain matures and grows? Objectively speaking, it's unlikely. This is because Vietnam has only 100 million people after all, less than 10% of China's population. As the country's middle class grows rapidly, wage costs will also rise. Usually, the economic development of mature regions will gradually shift to less developed regions. In China, the development trajectory has been moving from the east to the Midwest, but Vietnam doesn't have such a large inland to accommodate the increased capacity. In addition, if Vietnam wants to advance to high-end industries, problems like talent shortage aren't something that can be solved in a short time, as it needs an education system to cultivate talent, and such a system isn't established overnight. Our view is that industries are moving out of China to not only Vietnam but also India and other Southeast Asian countries such as Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, the Philippines, and Laos. That is to say that multiple countries combined can potentially replace one country, Communist China.